So today we're going to focus on the seamless integration between Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps and Office 365 products such as SharePoint, Outlook, and Microsoft Teams. We're going to take a look at the system requirements that are needed for Office 365 integrations and how these integrations can be set up within the Dynamics 365 customer engagement by a system administrator user. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty. So first, we're going to start with the SharePoint integration. So some prerequisites that you'll need are you'll need a Microsoft 365 subscription, as well as a SharePoint Online subscription and a SharePoint site. So you just want to make sure that you have that SharePoint site kind of handy. Specifically, the URL is what we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and get into our advanced settings of the system to go ahead and set up this SharePoint integration. In the upper right-hand corner of my window here, the gear icon, I can go ahead and click on that and click on advanced settings here. And from here, I can hit the drop down next to settings, and then I can click on document management. So I'm going to actually switch over to another sandbox environment that does not already have the SharePoint integration set up. So here I am in my sandbox environment. So I hit that drop down next to settings, I'm in document management, and then I see this option of enable server-based SharePoint integration. If I can draw your attention to the top of the page at this kind of flag here, there's also this button that says enable now for enable server-based SharePoint integration. I can click either there or on this enable server-based SharePoint integration option at the bottom here to get to the wizard, the connectivity wizard. So at this point, I can go ahead and click through the wizard here. I can click next. It asks me to define my deployment of SharePoint, whether it's online or on premises. I'm selecting online for this example. I can hit next, and then I can go ahead and paste that URL that I had saved from my SharePoint site directly into this window. The next step that's going to happen once I paste that URL and hit next is the system will validate that site. Just make sure that it is an actual SharePoint site. And then once I finish connecting this, the two systems will be connected. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here now and go back to my environment here. So going back to the document management settings here, the next place that I want to go to is document management settings option here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that option. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that we're selecting which entities that we want to have our SharePoint integration kind of based on. So if you've ever used or been in Dynamics 365, if you take a look at an account record, there's usually a tab that either says files or documents, and that's what's going to point to your SharePoint environment. So what this page is saying is, what entities do you want to have that document or files tab listed on? So by default, account is going to be selected. There's some other out of the box things that are selected here. Agreements, I believe contacts is on here as well. If I scroll down a bit, leads, opportunities, those are usually checked off. All different kinds of entities are selected, but it is completely up to each individual, organization on how they want to set up these entities and which ones are, relevant enough for you to have folders within SharePoint for them. You want to make sure that SharePoint site is set to the SharePoint site that was identified in the previous step. And then you can go ahead and click next. So now we're at the select folder structure area of this setup. And so you want to set up your folder structure based off of a specific entity. Now your options are going to be account or contact. Depending on how you're using the system, you might go either way. Typically, I find that account is more commonly used as like the base entity for your SharePoint environment. So what that looks like is you have your account folder listed And then within that account folder, you might have a opportunity folder. Maybe you'll have a quote folder as well. And there, within each of those folders, there's different documents for different quote records, for different opportunity records. But the idea is that it kind of all starts at the account, and it's all based off of the account. The account is kind of like the highest parent in that case. So from here, we can go ahead and click next. And you'll see that document libraries are being created for those folders that we had selected in the entities area. So as that runs, we can do whatever we have to do. It looks like there were some existing folders that were here, about 6, and then there was 24 newly created folders. So this looks good to me. I can go ahead and click finish. And now if I go ahead and click on my, open up my SharePoint site and refresh my page here, I can now see all of those additional folders that were added. So that is going to take care of the SharePoint integration with Dynamics 365 customer engagement. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the Outlook or Exchange Online integration with Dynamics 365. So something to mention beforehand is it is possible to create an integration between Dynamics 365 and Exchange on-premise. However, we're just going to go over the steps to set this up for Exchange Online today. So some things that you'll need, some prerequisites that you'll need for this integration are you'll need an Exchange Online subscription. You also want to make sure that your Exchange Online subscription is within the same tenant as your Dynamics 365 environment. And from here, we're going to go ahead and click on our gear icon again at the upper right-hand corner. And we'll click on Advanced Settings. We'll hit that drop down next to Settings. And then we're going to go to Email Configuration. So something to note that if you're setting this up for the first time and you just spun up your Dynamics 365 environment, your email server profile that's automatically created should already be looking at the email server, your Exchange Online email server profile that you have in that same tenant. So there's really nothing that you'll have to do there. I'm going to go back to the email configuration settings here and click on Email Configuration Settings. And these are the email configuration settings for the entire system. So I just want to go over, a few of these and talk through them just so we know what we're looking for when we're setting this up. So the first two sections here have to do with how we want the email processing to work and what kind of synchronization method that we want. We're always going to be looking for server-side synchronization. So process email using server-side sync. Same thing for incoming email, outgoing email, appointments, contacts, and tasks. So assuming that you want your incoming and outgoing emails coming from or being tracked, within Dynamics 365, that's why we want to set those to server-side sync. And then if you want your appointments, contacts, and tasks from Outlook to synchronize with Dynamics 365, we will also set that to server-side sync. You'll see here in the server profile by default will be set to that Microsoft Exchange Online server profile that we were just looking at a bit ago. As I scroll down a little bit more, we're talking about email processing for unapproved users and queues. So we want to make sure that we have both of these options selected, basically saying that we want to process emails only for approved users and queues. We don't want any unapproved people's emails being sent or synchronized within the system. As I scroll down a little bit more, we start to get into the folder level tracking and email correlation. So by default, the Dynamics 365 Exchange integration is going to use a tracking token to track your emails. So that tracking token is going to start with CRM : and we'll have a number at the end. And this will be tracked in the subject line of your emails that go out. Some organizations aren't as crazy about seeing that tracking token in their subject line or having their customers being able to see that. So there is an option to use smart matching instead Smart matching uses, the data that it's pulling from the email, um, looking at, recipients, maybe subject lines, any details it can find to try to do its best to match with an email thread that might already be tracked within Dynamics 365. And so with smart matching, you do not have to use a tracking token. As I scroll down a little bit more, we start to get more into the display options and formatting of the emails within Dynamics 365 and how they're looking there. So again, these settings here are for the entire organization, for the entire system. So if you make changes here, everybody will be able to see those changes reflected when they log into the system. So to save your changes, you can go ahead and click OK. And that should close things out. Alrighty, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at connecting a mailbox, a user's mailbox, to Dynamics 365. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in my sandbox here, going to the email configuration, and I'll go ahead and click on mailboxes. So you'll see here my active mailbox, my BCS demo mailbox, and I'll go ahead and open that up. Something to note that you'll need, you will need a global administrator user to be able to do the next step here, which is approving the email. So I'm opening up my user's mailbox on my page here. You'll know that it's not connected to this organization, to this environment, because you'll see incoming email status and outgoing email status and appointments, contacts, and task status is all set to not run. Something to note before I approve this is you'll see the synchronization method section down below here. Incoming and outgoing email are set to server-side synchronization or email router. Appointments, contacts, and tasks are set to none. But let's say I want to synchronize those items within the system, I can change that to server-side synchronization. So I can go ahead and save the change that I made. And now at this point, I can go ahead and approve this email. This is a very important step with connecting the Dynamics 365 environment to people's mailboxes. This will not work if the email is not approved. Before approving the email, you want to make sure that whatever's listed in the email address here is a valid email address that matches Exchange. And then if it is, you can go ahead and click Approve Email. It'll ask you, do you want to approve the primary email address of one mailbox? You can agree and click OK here. This mailbox is already synced up with my other production environment here, so I'm going to click cancel at this point. But after you approve this, you should be able to synchronize. So the next step after approving that email is clicking Test and Enable Mailbox. And so after clicking that, you'll see a bunch of gears kind of start running to see, testing the incoming emails, outgoing emails, appointments, contacts, and tasks. And when that completes successfully, you'll see success across the board here. So I can go ahead and show that success and what that should look like in the production environment. So like I said, we're now seeing success across the board here. So at this point, my user should have received an email that said, your mailbox is now connected to Dynamics 365. And that's how they'll know, okay, I should be able to send and receive emails from Dynamics 365. At this point, organizations often like to add the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook to their users' Outlook environment. And that's just that lightweight Dynamics 365 app so that they can kind of be directly into the system while in Outlook. We can hit that drop down next to settings. And we can go ahead and go to Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. So you'll see this is already added to my user here. But just to show you what this would look like, I can select my user and I can click on Add App to Outlook. And you'll see my status is pending. So this will be pending, until the app is successfully added for a user. You'll see that's set to added to Outlook. And at that point, you can notify your users to, kind of close out their Outlook, relaunch it, and they should be able to see a Dynamics 365 button when they open up an email. They should see that button in their email record. Again, this is all within Outlook that they should see that. The last step that you'll want to do to ensure that your user has access to the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook is you'll want to go ahead and add their security role. So you can go ahead and open up that user's record. And we can click on Manage Roles here. And then we can scroll down to find the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook user security role. So you want to make sure that that's selected, and then you can click OK. And those changes should be applied. And now your user is able to access Dynamics 365 in the lightweight app for Outlook. So the next thing that we're going to go over is the integration of Microsoft Teams with Dynamics 365. So there's two different types of integrations here. There's the basic collaboration and there's the enhanced collaboration. Today, we're going to go over both. So the basic collaboration allows a user to access Dynamics 365 while in Teams. So in the same way that Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, which we just talked about, allows users to get into Dynamics 365 from Outlook, we'll have something similar to that in Teams. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Teams application right here. I'm using the web application right now, but the steps are also the same for the desktop application. So at this point, I can go ahead and click on More Added Apps, and I can click on Dynamics 365. If you don't have this app added already, you can also click on Apps here. You can search Dynamics 365, and then you can add that app to your little toolbar here within Teams. Going back to my Dynamics 365 app here, I just kind of want to show what it looks like for each user. The user is able to get into Dynamics 365, as you can see here. They can make any changes that they might want to, add notes maybe. Let me go ahead and take a look at another account. I want to open up this account. And let's maybe make a change here. Oops. Go. Updating my relationship type. And so now if I go back to that same record in the CRM itself, I should see that change I made within Teams also reflected on the record in CRM. You can click on the settings option here within the Dynamics 365 app in Teams to go connect to another environment within your tenant or maybe another app. So by default, I'm connected to the Sales Hub. Let's say I was more customer service based. I can change this from Sales Hub to the Customer Service Hub instead. So that is the basic collaboration with Dynamics 365 and Microsoft Teams. Next, we'll go over the enhanced collaboration between Dynamics 365 and Microsoft Teams. So at this point, I will go back to my Dynamics 365 environment here, my window here, and we're looking at my Bond Consulting Services account record. So I can go ahead and hit more commands here, and I can select Collaborate. And I can go ahead and collaborate with Microsoft Teams. This is a team that I already have existing in my Teams application. and then I can select Open in Teams. I'm just going to keep it open within the web application for Teams here. Having a little bit of connectivity issues, but what we're trying to see listed here is my Dynamics 365 record is actually connected to my Teams channel. So going actually through my Teams channel, I can click on my General tab, and I have a tab for Bond Consulting Services, and it's the tab that's looking directly into Dynamics 365. As I go back to Dynamics 365 here, I want to just take a look at the app settings. Hit the drop down here next to sales. I can click on app settings, and I can click on chat and collaborate. So here in Teams collaboration and chat section, you'll see where these kind of settings were switched on. So here you have turn on the linking of Dynamics 365 records to Microsoft Teams channels. We specifically set that to yes, and set the turn on enhanced Microsoft Teams integration to yes as well. There's also an option to turn on the Microsoft Teams chats inside Dynamics 365. So if you wanted to have a chat window open for Teams while you're in Dynamics 365, so that you can kind of link to or take a look at existing records in the system while you're chatting maybe internally with somebody or maybe chatting externally with a customer, you could do that as well. We have this Teams chat turned on specifically for Customer Service Hub rather than Sales Hub, which is what I'm in right now. But we could turn it on for all Dynamics apps if we wanted to. So I'll go ahead and switch this from the Sales Hub to the Customer Service Hub just so we could take a quick look at that chat. And I'll go ahead and open up my Bond Consulting Services account just for continuity here. And I can click on chat. And here I can start a chat with someone if I wanted to. I don't think I actually have other people in chat right now in this environment. So I can't really add any participants or actually send a message just yet. But this is essentially where you might do that if you wanted to reach out to an external customer. If you click on channels here, it'll show you the Teams channel that is connected to this account. So that's this one right here. And it's just going to open up your Teams environment, just like we saw before, so that you can see maybe more information in the channel itself for this particular account. Alrighty, so that's going to conclude today's webinar, focusing on Dynamics 365 customer engagement and Office 365.